Jamie, 33 apartment buildings, 6,600 units.
So I grew up with immigrant parents, and they started investing in office buildings in the wake of the civil unrest and after the Northridge earthquake. This is my daughter. She's 22. She's going to be your new boss. This is really what is now Koreatown. But then the global financial crisis hit, and we had over 1,000 tenants in that building. And I was renegotiating workouts with all sorts of people, trying to keep them in place, help keep their businesses afloat. This cycle is ending abruptly with a global pandemic.
Welcome to the podcast. My name is Taylor Avakian. I'm here with my esteemed guest, Jaime Lee. Jamie, 33 apartment buildings, 6,600 units or more. 2,000 units are under construction. Jamison Properties, you're the CEO of Jamison Properties. I read that you decided around the age of 15 that you wanted to eventually join the family business. Most teenagers are not thinking about that at 15. What happened in your life at that moment that made that path so clear to you?
Well, I want to make a quick correction. CEO, Jamison Realty.
Jamison Realty, I'm sorry. Jamison Realty.
They're all very interchangeable in the public domain,
Yes.
for sure. So I grew up with immigrant parents. They were in the medical field. My mom was a dentist. My dad was a doctor. And so my whole childhood was like, doctor, be a doctor, grow up, be a doctor. That's, education is how you build multi-generational wealth, how you get ahead, how you create security in your life. And they started investing in office buildings in the wake of the civil unrest and after the Northridge earthquake. So this is 90s. The Mid-Wilshire area was just completely decimated, and they really saw that as an opportunity to not only have some side investments outside of their medical practices, but also to bolster a community, because this is really what is now Koreatown. Koreatown used to be further south on Normandy, closer to USC, and now it's very much located, centered on Wilshire Boulevard,
Totally.
but extending down a little past Olympic Boulevard and up towards the 101 freeway. And so when that started becoming a thing, it became much more discourse away from be a doctor, to this is a business now. And this is something that was pulling them away more from their medical practice and something that they were pulling us as their kids into. And so I'm an eldest daughter. I have 3 younger brothers. A lot has been written lately about eldest daughter syndrome and, the benefits, the fortitude and the things like that you get from just that birth order and being that position, but then also a lot of the pitfalls and downfalls that we're only beginning to recognize in my generation of that. And so I was leading the charge among my brothers for that. And so I went to USC. I actually skipped my senior year of high school and just wanted to move through my education and learn the business. So I stayed locally, learned the business while I was in school in order to just jump in as soon as I could. So I was at SC for undergrad and law school. And then during law school, I started managing a wholesale fashion building downtown called the California Market Center, 1.8 million square feet.
Jesus. Was that part of the portfolio at the time?
That was part of the portfolio. It was a newer acquisition.
Okay. And
we had actually parted ways with our general manager there. And my dad called me. I was in classes in law school, and he said, meet me at California Market Center when you're done with classes. So I'm like, okay. So it's 1:00. And I drive over there and I'm looking for everybody. It's all quiet. And I go in the conference room. All the employees are in the conference room, and he's sitting there at the table. And I walked in and he said, oh, this is my daughter. She's 22. She's going to be your new boss. And then I walked out. So it's like a baptism by fire.
Yeah, right.
In many ways. And I had done office management before that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd spent, a summer in a parking booth, like collecting tickets. Back then it was like collect the ticket, make the change. It was all cash. You have to reconcile the ticket numbers at the end of the day. I've also done, like answering phones in the executive suites. I think that's one of the hardest jobs to do back when people were really in the office. And I think that form of office is coming back now too, as many people are starting up and don't necessarily want to commit long-term to their own suite. I think that's one of the hardest jobs because you have to memorize everyone's greeting.
Oh my gosh.
In a different way. And so, and then had worked on larger scale projects like implementing things across many office buildings. And so I was there, and that's really where I cut my teeth on the property management side, but then the global financial crisis hit. And we had over 1,000 tenants in that building, and I was renegotiating workouts with all sorts of people, just trying to keep them in place, help keep their businesses afloat, try to keep tenancy in the building. And so that was a very intense period, but one where I just learned so much. And I think the most important thing is you learn so much about people.
Totally.
Going through that.
Yeah.
And that was an aspect of real estate that I didn't expect to learn so much from, but also to love. And so I became a deal junkie in that way. I still was managing properties downtown.
Yeah.
I became downtown regional manager. We had about 6 million square feet downtown at that time. But I got my broker's license and started doing leasing. And that's really where my skill set gravitated towards. And I think the nice thing about having 3 siblings is we all have different skill sets. And then they kind of gravitate towards different parts of the business.
Got it.
And so that's where I started my leasing career, got into brokerage. I know you're a broker.
Yeah.
And
it's not an easy business, especially when you're starting out.
Not when you're starting out, and not when you're starting out in a global financial crisis. And so it's just interesting to me, like we've seen so many black swan events now in our careers, being millennial. Are you a millennial?
Yeah, millennial. Yes, I am.
Just checking.
Yeah, last generation. I know.
So I'm an elder millennial. But the ways people do business have changed a lot. I think the way that I view the industry and even just how I fit into it, because I just felt like such an outsider when I started.
Sure.
And you're doing deals. Everyone's much older than you. Everyone's white. Everyone's male. They expect to do business in a certain way. They want to tell dirty jokes. They want to like yell at you or, kind of bully you a little bit to try to get what they want. So I was doing landlord rep. And so I was repping all of our properties downtown. And it was hard. I mean, those were stressful times in a lot of ways because everyone's just trying to make it when you're in that kind of environment. But at the same time, it was such a tenant's market.
Yeah.
So it really helped me to learn, like, what is your bottom line, really?
How do we get this deal done?
How do you defend that?
Yeah.
And then how do you find a partnership with someone where they're getting an office space that they'll really love and where their business will grow and where we can just work together collaboratively? Because it's like, you remember your very first deal? It's like 2276 was the square footage on that.
Wow.
But that was 20 years ago. It's crazy. But you always remember your first deal. But I got to watch that firm grow to be like an 18,000 square foot law firm in the building and all of those kinds of things.
That's really incredible. Speaking of first deals, my first deal was in Koreatown, 520 South Mariposa. 48-unit building.
Yeah, you never forget your
Never forget that first deal. And it was just a crazy story, too, and that was when the market was good. This was 2019.
Yeah.
And now I'm like...
The good old days.
The good old days. Oh, my gosh, when I actually...
You only had a couple of years.
Literally. And then 22 hit, and I'm like...
Yes.
It'll be over, right? Survive till 23, 24, 25. Oh, we're still
or we can just do this and like learn from people and vents about the situation.
All the good times.
We went through that, and after the GFC, things didn't really settle down. I remember 2012, 2013, people were still walking around saying like, well, the economy's bad. And so it took a long time to come out of that period, and I'm sort of feeling like that delay now and this downside, because then things really started picking up 14, 15, 16, 17. Then people were saying, we're past the 9th inning. We must be in the 11th inning. We're in the 12th inning. And then there was a Dodger game around that time that went like super long. So I'm like, we still have more room to go. No one could have possibly predicted that this cycle is ending abruptly with a global pandemic.
No.
And so, like I say, we just keep seeing these issues and volatility. Then I would call interest, we were such an interest rate sensitive industry that I would call the interest rate run up from a couple of years ago. It was like another huge, impactful thing that's just...
fastest in history, I think it was.
Right. Oh, yeah. And ground us to a complete standstill.
Jeez.
And so we see that on the transaction side. We see that certainly on the building side. And also, people are coming back to the office to a certain extent, but it's a different type of environment and a different set of needs.
When your family was building the portfolio, were you guys syndicating the deals, or was this like piece by piece by piece? Because when did your dad start buying these properties? How old were you?
I was like 8 or 9.
Okay, so he was like, and he went straight into office.
Yes. Straight into office, because he looked at it as a replacement cost play.
Interesting.
So these are empty office buildings on Wilshire Boulevard. When it was Koreatown, which it wasn't really even Koreatown then, but it was mid-Wilshire. After the civil unrest, after the earthquake, all of these big insurance companies that had essentially built those towers on Wilshire, they just got out of Dodge. So they moved out here to the Deep Valley. They moved to Glendale. And so they just moved to more suburban, ex-urban areas.
And left that area vacant.
The area vacant. So these were buildings that were trading $20, $30 a square foot.
Jesus.
And so my dad is a really great visionary in that. And he's also just quick to jump into new things.
Yeah.
I think that nimbleness and flexibility is what has allowed us, even in our move to multifamily, has allowed us to be adaptable and to, modify our thesis as we move forward to always be with the times. And so for him, he looked at it and he's like, well, the building costs probably like 100 plus per square foot to build. And so
I'm picking up at 20 cents on the dollar. Like,
yeah, exactly.
All right.
And so each project, and it wasn't like he had tons of capital either. So it's like friends and family. You make an entity for that acquisition, buy the building. It's the same thing as development. When we first started, it's like, okay, we'll try one and you build it, you see how it goes. It's like, oh, that was pretty good actually. So we'll start another and finish that one. And then you start ramping up the pipeline.
Yeah, as things get bigger and bigger.
And it was the same thing in office. So yeah, they're all individual ownerships, friends and family.
Okay.
Private capital.
And you were speaking there of how you guys transitioned too, because firstly it was office, right?
Yeah.
And then you...
For like 30 years.
For 30 years.
And still very much office. We still have a lot of office.
But you came in here and I felt like you shifted a little bit towards wanting to then focus on multifamily and adaptive reuse. So like, was there a specific moment when you realized you needed to take the company in a different direction, or how did that happen?
Yeah. So coming out of the GFC, we had a building on Wilshire Boulevard that was 100% leased by the County of Los Angeles. And they vacated when their lease was up. So they'd been there for 20 something years.
Yeah.
They vacated the building to go to county owned. And so we had this empty office building in a very middling office leasing market. I mean, we look at it now, these trends in office, they've been severely exacerbated by the pandemic, but they were always there. And we're just sort of limping to this until the pandemic really made it come to a head. And so middling office market, healthy vacancies, and lower rental rates. And so we had seen the success of what has happened in downtown LA. I mean, look at the Arts District. It's the only vibrant part of downtown LA. You would even say people didn't even call it the Arts District, 20 years ago. And so that adaptive reuse had been used there to convert older, manufacturing factories like, biscuit makers and things like that into lofts and apartments. And Koreatown half of Koreatown is within the adaptive reuse ordinance zone.
Got it.
So we thought, okay, well, this is maybe just like a TI, because it didn't make sense to put fresh capital into a building that had been, occupied for 25 years.
Yeah.
And put fresh money into a middling office market. So we're like, we'll try this. And so it was like just a very expensive TI. I think it was $125 a square foot.
Wow.
And we had Southwestern Law School across the street. So we figured like, okay, if anything, these students will just want to live here and we'll just see. This was before any talk of a housing crisis. This was maybe they were calling it a crunch, or they were saying there might be a housing shortage coming.
2010, 2011?
This is 11, 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we did the work. We were supposed to open in the summer. This is our first time doing it. Supposed to open in the summer. We figured we'll capture those students and they'll move in and they can walk across the street to go to school. We didn't open until Thanksgiving. So the students already had places to live. And we were just like, oh my gosh, opening Thanksgiving weekend when everyone has flown home and all that stuff isn't going to be great. And we were a little bit concerned. And that building leased up in 2.5 months at higher than our pro forma.
How many units was that?
127.
Wow. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Jeez. And so that was the light bulb moment.
Whoa. Yeah. We thought maybe, it's like if you rent the office for $175 to $2, that's full service gross. And apartments are essentially triple net.
Yeah.
And so we're like, yeah, if we can get like $2, $250, like that would be great. And it was like $275. And so then we thought, okay, we're on to something. So that was, that first project, you want to see it through. Then we looked at what's the next one. So our second building, also in Koreatown, sort of a storage, previously was like a light manufacturing building, converted that one, leased up right away. The third one leased up right away. So then we started our development pipeline. And around the same time, learning up, and luckily my youngest brother had just graduated from law school. He has become our complete development entitlement expert, and so he's got the whole everything.
There's so many things that you need to know with that.
It's incredibly intricate. And like I said, I consider myself to be a deal junkie. I want to meet people, I want to talk numbers, and all of those things. So my brother Garrett runs our entire he's president of the company. He runs our entire development division, and so started looking at zoning and entitlements in Koreatown, which are actually pretty good.
The best.
We're already denser
in the city.
Yeah, already denser in the city. The city is the Koreatown is like 94% for rent, and so there's just a couple of condo buildings, so it's all multifamily.
Super dense
as a structure. So it's this. People have said it's the second densest neighborhood outside of Manhattan. In the United States,
which is crazy.
So it's just a vibrant, really interesting, very diverse place. And it's in the center of the city. If you say like, okay, tell me why Koreatown is great. And I'm like, here's Los Angeles. Like, this is Koreatown. It's like 101, 10, 405 over here, 110 a little bit closer. And so it's just been great to see that rise as such a vibrant center of our city. I remember Anthony Bourdain, when he was doing his travel show, I think his first episode was the Congo, and then the second episode was somewhere in Central America, and the third episode was Koreatown, Los Angeles. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And still, it's like there are new restaurants popping up all the time.
The best restaurant.
There's one just got a Michelin star. And I'm
no way.
Like, and so that whole area is really just continuing to thrive. Because it's just such a vibrant center, and people want to be there. Young people want to be there. So it's just so fascinating compared to, I've been going to Koreatown since I was
forever. And you've seen it change, I'm sure, like throughout the years. If we're looking at how you're looking at deals versus how your dad's looking at deals, because you self-described elder millennial, as you said, right? Which is kind of bringing the new mindset into Jamison and the company and whatnot. So if I talk to you and your father about the same property, right? What would be the most striking difference in how you each approach the potential of the building?
From an investment standpoint or from a completed?
Investment. Like, are you both agreeing? Do you have similar mindsets in how you're looking at what potential there is for this building? Or do you look at it differently because you're from a different era? Like, how does that go?
Investment is pretty standard in the sense that there's just limited ways to look at how to make the numbers work. So I would say from that standpoint, this is a business and we have to support a lot of people. We've got, 200 people in the company and all that. All of our investors are friends and family. So that adds like a different level of pressure and responsibility as well. So I'd say from a pure numbers standpoint, we'll look at it in a similar way and maybe we'll debate about like, at what return on cost number is really pulling the trigger to move forward on something. I would say the theoretical areas and the social areas are where we'd really differ. Whereas, his philosophy has always been very internally focused, where it's like, this is a company that I started. I go to work every day. He loves just being in the conference room, seeing everything going on. He takes all his meetings there, all his calls there, and he just loves to be in his kingdom and see how that all. And for that, it's like we do the best work we can for our investors, and we do the best work we can just to like keep the company going. He has such an entrepreneurial mindset. The difference for me is I'm an eldest daughter. I am a millennial, and I consider myself much more to be an executive. Like, I'm a hired gun as opposed to an entrepreneur. I've always said, like entrepreneurship is like for middle children, which he is one, and my middle brother is one. Also, I'm like, I need my W-2. I need to just like, tell people what to do. I feel like I've studied leadership. And so there was this unbelievable class at USC you had to apply to. It was the former president of USC, President Sample, and then Dr. Warren Bennis, who's one of the premier and first academics really studying leadership in the United States. And that was an amazing class. And so I'm more externally focused. in that way. I think
Got it.
collaboration with like neighborhood, of
Yeah.
understanding like your impact on the area around you is critically important. How do we contribute to the housing crisis in the city?
Yeah.
What type of product are we doing? Like we have a huge range of product types now, all the way from affordable housing at the very lowest levels. So we have lots of extremely low income units, all the way through luxury high rise, which we do every now and then. And so we're in all the food groups in between, like adaptive reuse, type 3s, et cetera. And so those impacts are critically important. And our leadership styles are just really different.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that before too, of how it seems like the real estate industry has gone so much away from this cutthroat, like I'm just in it for my commission and my deal, to and like if I need to lie and cheat and trick somebody to like signing for something, I will. And that's how it felt to me when I started in this industry, and it was really hard. And now it's just like, hey, we're open book. Like, this is my bottom line. That's your bottom line. Like, how do we get to a point where we're both happy? And that's a good deal. Or if we'd say in law school, like when both people are unhappy, you know, you've reached a really good deal. And so
I think that's
that collegiality.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's because, well, I don't know, I'm speaking out loud here, but like there's less privacy. There's more information that's openly available to everyone with the internet and the way
the democratization of information has made all the difference in the world. And it wasn't meaning to imply that my dad was of a generation
no,
like
but that was the way that you did the business, right? That was when
it was the information asymmetry that made all the difference in those early deals. It's like, who could you get an OM from?
Yes.
Because I was like, I talked to brokers and they're like, oh my gosh, I used to sit there and have a dial sheet, and then you have to whittle down your dial sheet because you only have so much time in the day, and they would literally fax the OM page by page by page. So like 30 pages, they're just sitting there faxing, and then you look at your sheet and you dial the next number and you fax it to the next guy who you think might buy your listing. And so if you got the OM, and if you had a relationship with a broker where you could hear like, you know, this is really what the owner is thinking and this is what they need, then that was everything. Now kids are coming out of USC with just like, oh, these are all the different ways to like income valuation, you know, replacement costs, like here are comps, here's how you run it all. I'm on CoStar.
I got it. They have all the information at their fingertips, right? And it is also, it's very interesting business because even when I started, it's kind of changed a little bit. You can be a 21, 22-year-old and make an incredible amount of money just with pure work ethic and effort, right? And I think that has changed over time. And it's very interesting to see that also from the principal side, because I've seen that change for the type of investors or the type of people who want to invest in properties. There's young people who are like, I want to go raise money and try to add value to these buildings and make this portfolio for myself that I've seen very successful people before me be able to do. And I think it's very cool to have that almost open kimono where you can see the possibilities, you can see what's possible, and you have the same ability to get a deal done and make something happen as really anyone else. And that's really refreshing, and I think that's amazing. Really nice.
And it's great too, because I never thought of myself as a 20-year-old who was like, I'm going to go out and just, you know, it is great to see people taking leaps and starting, which is unbelievable. And then the other piece of information asymmetry is things like this. Because I didn't have podcasts, like I didn't have influencers in this space. I could hardly, like the people that I knew who were investing in real estate or building things, or even on the brokerage side, it was sort of like maybe you can make a friend with a broker, but in general, no. I could commiserate with other landlords, but it was also a very different era because there were almost no women in the space. And so it was just very, very different. I used to wear like pantsuits all the time and tie my hair up. In my mind, I was like, what did I think I was like? It wasn't like a camouflage or a costume. And now I'll wear like dresses and colors, and today accepted. But
no, I like it. I like it.
Well, you said you were going to wear black t-shirts.
This is I have the same. I'm very like Zuckerberg when it comes to like I'm wearing the same thing every day because
so you don't have to think about
my brain, my mental capacity. There's so many open loops, and I'm sure too for you having to deal with. I mean, you said 500 people at your company?
200.
200 people, but you're the CEO of 200 people and their livelihoods. Like, that's a lot of responsibility and a lot of open loops.
And that's not even taking into account, like, all of our third parties. There's thousands of people.
Which is just absurd and crazy, which I'd love to dig into, your mental frameworks of how you make decisions. We both have a mutual mentor. You've fortunately met him. I unfortunately did not, but Charlie Munger, I think, has been very much a mentor to both of us. And I'd love to know, like, he's very much a proponent of mental models and thinking through decisions and this like multidisciplinary thinking. What mental model or framework from outside of real estate has most influenced you on how you approach like development and challenges in growing a business?
Yeah, that's a good question. Growth mindset, I think, is the most important thing. And this idea that you don't know what you don't know, that humility is critical to take into all of these things. I see plenty of people who are like, oh, I have a degree in this, or like, I'm a billionaire, I've done this before, and I'm just going to do the same, rinse and repeat, do the same thing again. I think you run into trouble when you have those kinds of, so I meet lots of people in the industry. And for me, I always try to approach things with this mindset of I'm definitely not done learning. All I did, like, I have plenty of friends who are like listening to podcasts just for the pure entertainment, is like gossip or funny stories. And I think that levity is so important, especially these days, to have those types of outlets. It's really, really important. But I'm constantly just like learning something new. I'm listening to pods from like new psychology, new brain studies, things on health, longevity, sleep. Oh my gosh, I'm a terrible sleeper. Been working my sleep though, I've been tracking it for so long and working on it. It gets better on average by about 3 minutes a year.
That is so cool that you know that.
So small,
I love that.
But literally it was like 6:57. 7 hours.
Yeah.
Look, 7:03 this year. I'm at 7:06 so far.
Wow. That speaks. Okay. I have to point that out.
But what gets measured gets managed. That's like another framework.
Yes.
Because if you don't know, then we're just doing what we're doing. You just show up every day, do the same old thing. And if you can't pick your head up and just say, hey, like, this is diminishing returns. This is opportunity cost. This is whatever it is. Like, we need to make a pivot at some point.
I think that's so important to double click on, because every successful person, they have different personalities and you can be successful in a bunch of different ways. But one thing that I've noticed through so many people that I've talked to is like they're very much into the details, the little details, the little measurements, the 3 minutes here, the pennies here of how we can get the cost of construction or wood down. Like, that matters when you're looking at scale. And when you're growing something. And I think that attention to detail is something that behooves being a CEO and running a company. And have you always been like detail oriented like that?
Yes, because to me, so the other thing I would say about my frameworks on decision making, I like to take in as much information as possible and then make a decision and be done with it. And there are plenty of other people who waffle, who think things one week and change their mind the next, or they, they only go surface level and they think they're making a good decision. And then a couple months later, it's like, oh no, I didn't take this into account. So I think the detail orientedness is really important to be able to make the best decision you can in the moment you can and live with it. Because then at the end of the day, so you can look back 6 months and be like, that was the wrong decision, or the market turned in a different way and we couldn't undo it or be adaptable in that particular scenario. But I think it's important to be decisive. And I think in leadership style, it's important to just say, like, this is a decision. This is why. Can people get on board as a consensus, and can we move forward all together? And I think that's a different generational thing than when you look at boomers too, where it's like, this is what we're doing and that's final.
And
there's no input. So I think of myself as a very collaborative person and someone who is a servant leader. So always trying to help people.
That's a great book, by the way.
Job. And
Servant Leadership is a great book. I recommend everyone read that if you haven't already.
There's so many good books. That's what I mean. It's like I'm always on Audible. I'm always on. So people ask me about like TV shows, unless it's something that's really, really in the zeitgeist, like White Lotus. Like you can't get away.
Right. Like,
but when people talk Game of Thrones or like so many of these other like spy, there's so many spy shows or Yellowstone or any of that. I was like, I am just doing my reading, learning, just trying to get a couple more minutes of sleep tonight and work on my health and all of the habit stacking and things like that. But I live on Audible because I'm always driving, like between meetings, between sites.
Doing everything. I want to get into the nitty gritty, the weeds of this adaptive reuse, construction costs, all the fun stuff. So can you walk me through like the economics of your most successful conversion, office to residential conversion?
Okay.
And like, what was the basis per foot? What are the conversion costs, your exit value compared to like ground up development? Can you get as specific as possible about the numbers and what is possible with these conversions?
Yeah. So the environment has changed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
When we first started, it almost seemed, when we first started, people were suggesting that maybe a housing shortage was coming soon. That was sort of the rhetoric that was out in the ether. People were aware that rents were going up and that there's limited supply, but it was nothing close to the crisis that it is now. And now it's a nationwide crisis. And we're so short on housing. I mean, in LA, and it's the city alone, we need 456,000 units by 2029.
And you're saying we've only built 40,000, right?
Yeah, this was a marker from a study for the period between 21 and 29. So we're halfway through that time period. We've built like 40,000.
Oh my gosh.
456. And, 100 and something thousand of that is affordable. So there is a big need for that.
Yeah.
But a lot of average tenants, when affordable is at the moderate income level, which so many of market rate units are anyways, like people don't want to subject themselves to additional restrictions and additional testing and those kinds of things. So you have to build both, and you have to build all types there's so many different striations of affordable housing as well. And then you've got to build everything from like the lowest possible market rate to the highest possible market rate too, because home ownership has been foreclosed for so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can't buy a house in Los Angeles anymore, then maybe you get a 2-bedroom condo or 3-bedroom condo. And so those are luxury buildings. Those are nicer buildings. And so we need all of that. And now you have ULA, which so many people who would have moved, like if you buy a $1 million house, it's because that person moved to a $3 million house.
Yeah.
And that person's buying a house from someone who moved to a $6 million house, whatever it may be. But it's not like this house just appeared and no one from there went anywhere.
Yeah.
And maybe they didn't downsize. Most people, especially family homes of the certain sizes, don't. And so you have to continue the flow of people moving up into larger and different types of housing in order to make space at these lower levels. And so what we've really seen is you've cut off everything $5 million and above. And people who otherwise maybe would have sold to move to something a little bit more expensive are like, no way, you're going to get hit on the purchase price. I mean, the money has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
It's always back to the consumer.
Yeah.
And so then that trickles down. And so you don't see movement happening in the lower levels. And so people are staying in multifamily types of housing. And so you've got to build everything. It's like people want to, crap on luxury developers. That's the only thing that pencils in downtown LA. So if you want to change regulations and restrictions, you can build more affordable, lowercase a affordable housing in downtown LA. But right now you can't, because there are enough things that prevent you from doing that.
I just saw an article, $1 million a unit.
Yeah. For high rise.
Yeah. And I just like...
That's why you have to charge higher rent. I mean, that's what it costs. And we don't cap what people can charge for hamburgers.
Yeah.
We don't tell like taco trucks and vendors to, you can't charge more than this. We don't ask them to run their businesses at a loss.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we do that because developers are clearly so evil. We're not like small immigrant.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Right. You didn't start from nothing and build
up. It's like there's another part of the American dream, which I really consider my family to be so deeply part of, and so many people that I know.
Yeah.
This is the American dream. This is why you come to a new country. This is why you give of your labor and your opportunity and all these things to do this. And then you punish people on the other side, or you just like glorify the worst examples of them and make them prison in your face.
I know. So what were the construction costs back when you guys were doing this, when it was a little easier, not a crisis, versus what does it look like now?
So our first project all in was about $250 a square foot.
Wow. Conversion.
125 on the hard cost. So it really was like an expensive TI on an office building. So
100%.
I figured like, let's try it and go for it, because the old mode of thinking would have been like, fine, like revamp the hallways and the lobby and refresh it, or just gut it and vanilla shell it, and let's just hang the shingle and hope some tenants come by for office.
Yeah.
And so it didn't make sense to do that for the capital, for the time, all of that. And so it slowly crept up from there.
Uh-huh.
And these days it's probably more like $400 a foot.
For the
all
conversions.
in. Yeah, for conversions.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you can pick up, I know you guys own the office buildings, but if you're valuing it on the actual building basis, right?
Yeah.
What are you valuing the building and the land at this time?
So usually when we acquire land, you're shooting for like 100,000 per unit
Okay.
on the land.
Okay.
And so some of these, especially earlier on, is like 75 to 85,000
Wow.
a unit, and you already have the structure, the building envelope
Got it.
on top of the land.
Okay, so you have a
So
little bit
there's
of buffer
so many
there.
efficiencies.
Yeah.
I mean, adaptive reuse is the obvious solution
Yeah.
to our issue here. Yes, people are starting to come back to the office, but that environment looks completely different in many ways. And you have so much inefficiency, or you just have so much refresh that needs to happen in the office space, and whether owners can take on that capital burden for the question mark of whether tenants are going to come back to those types of buildings is another thing. And so this is a more sustainable way to do it. If you can demolish a building, you have to load up a whole bunch of trucks and haul that out all to, the middle of nowhere, California or Utah.
Mm-hmm.
They're taking all the fire debris
Oh,
and things like that out there.
interesting.
They just bury it in the ground.
Really?
It's just, yeah. So you can demolish that. Then you have to dig a giant pit in order to build something new. So that causes, more disruption, more time, more analysis. And so here, when you're using the existing building envelope, office buildings are inherently high rise. Most of the buildings are, 10, 11 stories and higher. They already come with parking because to operate a fully functional office building, I mean, downtown LA is a little bit shorter, but in Koreatown, you have anywhere from 2 to 4 per thousand
Wow.
on the parking, plenty to service apartments. And they're super well located.
Mm-hmm.
And, real estate, location.
Totally.
But you're on like major thoroughfares. You're above transit because that's where they build transit
Yeah.
to service people who are
Going to
commuting
the
to
office.
offices. And so you've got like superior location. It's much more sustainable environmentally, speeds the time and lowers the cost.
So you guys are doing it at a scale that I think no other developer or owner has been able to do it at. Why do you think most owners are failing to overcome the challenges of doing the adaptive reuse? Why do you think people are not doing it at the scale that you guys have been able to?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because I read some of these articles and multiple people, they must have read the same article. Multiple people have told me recently, they're like, well, what about coring slab to slab for all those bathrooms? And I was like, what? And they were like, oh, we heard like the primary challenge of adaptive reuse is you have to core between these concrete slabs to get, all the risers through it and the conduit through it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's not an issue. Like, that's not something. And I sort of went back to construction and I'm like, is this a thing? And they're like, what?
Yeah.
They're like,
what?
no. And so, yeah, you don't want to hit a beam. You don't want to hit some existing like main conduit line or something that you can't change, but that's what drawings are for. That's like what eyeballs are for when you go and you look at it. And sure, there's always surprises.
Yeah.
I think that's like the biggest challenge. There's always a surprise. The drawings never match up exactly. And when you're building something from scratch, you're just like building it. You can build whatever you want.
Yeah.
With this, you're working within an existing footprint, and so you have to modify. You always have like a couple funky units that usually turn out to be something really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had a building where one unit on the end, on the top floor of a podium, had like this glass sunlight. It was almost like an atrium
Uh-huh.
in the unit. And so we made that the bedroom. And we had like an automatic shade that would go like this. And that's just something really unique. You never put that in a ground up.
Totally.
We have other ones where it's like you go out and it had like 1,000 square foot balcony because it just wrapped around
Wow.
on the podium level of a building. And so that was one where it's like you basically get your own backyard on some of these.
Killer.
So there's like really cool wonky things that happen there. I don't understand the coring from slab to slab issue, but multiple people have cited that as a reason why adaptive reuse is so hard. And that's not really the case at all that I would see. It's more just like sometimes you break through drywall and just like, oh, this is an interconnecting stairwell that connected these two floors for like a law firm or something a long time ago. And then instead of like demoing and closing the slab, we just like boxed the drywall around it and pretended it wasn't there. Or, there's bank vaults in some of these buildings. Just things sometimes you like discover that you have to remove or things that don't line up exactly right. But I've been speaking about adaptive reuse because we started this well before the pandemic. Our first project finished in 2013, and dozens of panels and talks and
Why do you think people are not
Zooms
doing
and things.
it?
And I'm always like, come join us. Like, the water's warm. And of course, like there are headwinds. It's gotten a lot harder.
Yeah.
And then once interest rates go, it's just kind of like everyone's pencils down right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But and also I would say the market has not come down. The office market is bottoming, but has not necessarily come down to where the thesis to acquire new in order to convert
Got it.
is not quite there yet.
Got
So I would say like that's maybe not quite there yet, but I'm really now, my new strategy is really encouraging existing office holders, people who have buildings that, you need something to do with it. You're not sure about office coming back, then to look at it. And I'm thinking about like advising people and
Yeah.
helping them do the development.
I mean, that'd be
aspect of it.
super smart, especially because their basis is ideally better than what a new purchaser would be because of the, tax benefits of them holding on to it for a long time.
Yeah,
So their property
definitely.
taxes are lower,
Yeah.
which is nice. So I think we need people like you to be able to then show that and it's funny because you've shown that it's possible. I think it's spreading the word out there. Like, hey,
Yeah.
this is what's possible. Here are the numbers. The numbers make sense. Like, here's how you do it. Like, let's all chip in and make this a possibility. But I think people they're afraid. There's a fear around actually going and executing something because it's not a small task,
No, it's not at all. And it's like a little bit more complicated than ground up, but ground up doesn't pencil.
Yeah.
It's just not working. If you're like sub 5 return on cost, like I said, everyone's pencil is down. Now we've got tariffs, another huge knock. ULA, huge knock. I mean, that just takes out anyone who's not a long-term, local, small private.
Why do you think
company.
let's talk about ULA for a minute because that has just kind of blown my mind in terms of the effects. I knew it was going to be, detrimental, but man, it has been really detrimental in terms of
it's horrible policy.
the sentiment.
And it's destroying value in
Yeah.
Los Angeles.
Like what
and
happened?
investment in the city. What happened? I don't know. People voted for it. Marketing. They called it a mansion tax. I saw a really cool video recently that was talking about the difference between millionaires and billionaires and like how much bigger like billionaires is like taxing millionaires on. It's not the equity portion. It's the whole thing. And if you look at investment properties, you're wiping people out.
Yeah.
So it's like you physically can't sell if you can't afford to lose a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And so it's had an incredible chilling effect on investment in Los Angeles and an incredible chilling effect on building in Los Angeles. So we talked about we need 456,000 units. We've built about 40, but the number of where our lowest construction starts in 13 years.
Right now.
So that number is only going to be decimated. Last year was the lowest construction starts in 12 years.
My God.
And in the last 3 or 4 years, new units being approved to go to build has dropped by 45%.
Wow.
And so on the flip side, I'm a lifelong Angelino. I was born and raised here. I'm raising my kids here. I believe so deeply in LA. This is the most vibrant, creative, diverse culture that I really believe exists in the world. And it's such an epicenter of employment. So I think LA is always going to go and we're always going to be an attractive place. You can't beat the weather. But yeah, it's just like it's startling what's happening now, and that chilling effect is just making it so that people are frozen in where they are if they're anywhere near that threshold. And you see some creative things happening on the margins.
Yeah.
But that needs to be repealed if we want any chance of people building more units. So I always want LA to do really, really well, which means we need more units.
Yes.
And we need to create, we see it everywhere. Anywhere where you have hyper supply, the rents come down. Like, look at Texas, and people are fleeing Texas too now. Or they can't sell their houses for what they bought it for at the pandemic. And all these places where it's so easy to build, the rents come down because the unit count goes up. And it's such a fun, it's like literally on the first page of any economics book. And I didn't even study economics. I know that first chapter for sure is that. On the flip side, what we really see as green shoots as we look forward is if you have the ability to develop now in this dark, sad abyss that we're all in, and if you can have units, you'll be the only one with new units coming to market in 27, 28, 29.
Which are you guys, so what is the current, what are you guys doing right now to adapt to what's going on in the market? How are you guys approaching the current pipeline and new opportunities, and where are you guys at from that process right now?
We haven't started a ground up project, and we don't plan to this year. The numbers just don't work.
Yeah.
And until you have tax abatement policies to encourage development, or until you have, fee waivers, because there's just like huge portion of the building cost is fees. Those are levers that governments have that they could partner with people to really incentivize. So I see that. But yeah, what we're really focused is on our more adaptive reuse, because those are still things where we have the building in hand, we have the knowledge and the skill set to be able to do it. It works. And that's what we're focused on right now. So we've got 3 under construction. We've got 2 more starting actually soon, and then maybe even sneak in another 1 or 2 by the end of the year.
Wow.
And then a few more next year.
So that's where the money is right now. That's the only thing that makes sense.
Well, it's not necessarily where the money is right now, too. I mean, we're raising equity for our projects.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the citywide adaptive reuse ordinance.
Yes.
And so I think that's an area, too, where maybe we'll see more people jumping in, because it's by right. If you're within
Can you
the
explain
ordinance.
what that is and what's changed and how that may lead to more opportunities?
Yeah. So right now, they instituted the adaptive reuse ordinance in the 90s. They had a set date for the buildings that you could do is in the 70s. So it's like any building built before this time,
Got it.
you can switch, and any building within this geographic area, you can convert from one use to another.
Okay.
And so people were using that downtown, because all of downtown is in it, to convert, say, a biscuit factory into the biscuit lofts.
Got it.
And so they were doing that. It only pertains to all of downtown and half of Koreatown. So that what has eased our ability to do that, because it's by right, which means we don't have to go through an entitlement process. You don't have to say like, hey, city, am I allowed to change my building from this to this? And then they're like, let's think about it for 2 years. We'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And so you skip that process.
Got it.
Instead, you're sort of like, this is what we're doing. Here are our architectural plans. And they're like, here's a permit. And you go build. So that's the savings. That's a huge other portion of why people aren't doing it across the city anymore, like yet. But hopefully they'll pass the citywide adaptive reuse ordinance. So it's like we always try to think about those things in different ways. It's like, oh, more competition, more units coming online, more risk that if you build enough units, like rents start coming down. On the flip side, it's like the more we're really in a bad place right now in LA.
It would take a lot.
It would take more than we could possibly build
to
get to that level, which is why I'm on my soapbox of like, we need to help our city. We need to help teachers and doctors and nurses and all these people like live in the city where they work. I know too many people who drive 60 to 90 minutes each way because it's just unaffordable.
We can't
to live here
anymore.
And we need to have it. And the other thing I was going to say is like the permits that are being approved right now, I said is down 45%.
Yeah.
The percentage of those that are for single family has shot up. So a third of those are for single family, which is the loose dense type of. We still need it because people want to own homes. And actually 3/4 of our land in LA is zoned for single family.
Yeah.
And I know the state is trying to change that.
Yeah.
And so we're really heading into this place where these are, either SFR, like for rent people, or people who are replacing housing from the fires. People also don't realize we lose about 3,000 units to obsolescence every year. So there's actually like a deficit that's like happening every single year. And then you have the fires, which has been just utterly catastrophic. And I know dozens and dozens of people who've lost their homes, and even more than that, who are just displaced and don't live here or had to move. And Altadena is not part of the city of LA, so we wouldn't necessarily, renters and owners, it's fluid. People aren't like, oh, I'm crossing the boundary, I'm not going to rent in this city. So it's part of it, but 16,000 units.
It's crazy.
Just wiped off the map.
Gone.
And what a burden. And it's like all of different property types, but what a burden on our existing housing crisis.
Insane. And it just keeps compounding, which, like, if you had, an hour with people in the city, right, what would you be telling them needs to happen for us to fix this?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of good intentions there. You got 81 and they're trying to streamline affordable housing development and all that. Great. What they found, though, is they approved a whole bunch of projects and no one's building them. So you can be as well-intentioned. You can try to create some policies. You can think that you're easing a process, but that's like only one friction point. The approval is only one friction point. Then you're dealing with like actual inspections and that whole process. Then you're dealing with DWP and all of that stuff. Then you're dealing with Public Works and everything, Bureau of Engineering, all of these different things. There's, more than a dozen departments and kind of like people that you're beholden to in this process of like approvals and timing and all of this other stuff. So yeah, that I think well-intentioned. What we need to really address is the penciling, because what you will find is even affordable housing developers, the project has to pencil or you're not putting a shovel in the ground.
90% of the ones of the ED1 products that I talked to owners on, they were planning on getting it entitled and selling it. And 90% of those are no longer doing any ED1 stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. They got to the numbers and it's just like, it doesn't work. It doesn't pencil. So good
intentions.
Yeah.
But we really need policy. And so what a simple shift could just be like a customer service attitude towards things, as opposed to the sense of like, oh, I have something you want and we're going to keep it away from you as much as possible. And we just want you to fail, or we want to make it more difficult, or we want you to do all these things that we want you to do, but not something that in the free market anyone would decide to do. Those kinds of things. But really, it's just incentives. If, for instance, there was a financing program where you could actually get construction debt that was lower than what these crazy interest rates are, then maybe you can make a model pencil. If you had a tax abatement on the other side, you could definitely make a product pencil. If you had, like I said before, abatement or relief from fees or different types of things like that. I mean, there's are lots of different levers that the city could use. And I think that's what I would push for. It's the sense of partnership of like, these are local businesses. These are people who were born and raised here or who came here from somewhere else with the hopes of contributing to the fabric of the community and this like texture of this amazing community that we have in LA. You go to other cities and it's sort of like, oh, these people live up here and these people live here. And if you live in the north, that means you're this type of person. And here it's like every street, every neighborhood, so blended. Yes, there's like weighted in different ways depending on where you are, especially for new immigrant populations, which are growing too. I mean, not anymore with this administration that we're in. And that is something else. Like, we should talk about the amount of fear. It's like from the real estate side, we can talk about just from labor and the shortage that we already had in labor. So now we're adding tariffs. Now we're making labor even more difficult. And this sense that like, oh, American Gen Z kids are going to do a lot of these jobs.
Yeah. What are we talking about?
No way. Because we talk to elevator technicians all the time. That is a very multi-generational career. So people who are like, oh, my father was an elevator technician. It's extremely technical. It's very complex. There's a lot of risk and liability in it when you're dealing with these things that people have to ride up and down. And I've talked to so many people who are like, I can't get my kid to want to do my job. They want to go be like a gamer or an influencer.
A YouTuber or something like that.
And so I feel like it's very refreshing now as millennials who we got shit on for so long by everyone else. And we're the largest generation now.
Wow.
In the country. We're eclipsing boomers. And Gen Z is fairly small, but oh man, they make us look good.
I know, for sure. It is. There's so many different headwinds, I think, to the processes of building properties and of making the economy continue to grow in a way that everyone can benefit from. Everyone can get better from. And I'm seeing it firsthand. And I have younger brothers and sisters too, right? And it's almost hard for them to get jobs.
Oh yeah.
But they don't want to go be a plumber. They don't want to go be a elevator technician because it's not glamorous, and or the effort and sacrifice it takes to be and have that technical skill. Like, someone wants to go drop ship on Shopify, right? Or they want to go start an internet business, and there needs to be a place for people like that who are building the fabric of our country, of our city, to really revel in, be able to actually enjoy the fruits of their labor, reward them for those skills.
Yes.
I can guarantee you, we live in a capitalist society. If the pay is high enough, if something makes sense, right? If there's a path to get to a place where you're independent or financially free, people will go and do that, right?
Do you think though? That's a millennial talking.
I
I listen to enough young people. They're like, I don't need to do something just for the money. I need to do something that aligns with my, passions and things, which is great. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I think there are plenty of people, like myself included, who I'm like, I wake up after 20 years. I'm like, how did I get here and do this career for a long period of time?
Yeah.
All of that stuff. And did I ever really, I think I was 30 and I was pregnant with my first child and I was driving on the freeway towards downtown. And I was like, what would I actually do if I could literally do anything?
Yeah.
And that was and I was like, shame on me for that being the first time that I ever even explored that question.
That is
and so it's like big credit to the younger generation for saying that they're really dedicated to do something that lights them up and that they feel contributes to society. Like have an activist mindset.
Totally.
This mindset that, they're so stressed out about climate change. And we all should be. But it's something that actually they carry as like a daily personal burden. It affects their mental health. So good on them for doing that. But at the same time, too, it's like that comes from a place of privilege, of coming of age in this run up that we had post GFC, pre-pandemic, of living in an environment where there's sort of like, go follow your dreams.
Yeah.
Like the logistics will just sort of take care of themselves.
Everything else will figure it out. I know it is. It's an interesting time. And I talk to my brother and sister and I'm like, hey, and I guess I'm a culprit. I'm like, do what you love, do what lights you up, because I am fortunate enough where I found something that I'm like obsessed with on a good level. Like I love what I do and it's really fun and I enjoy the game of business and like a deal junkie. Like I want to go find the next deal and put a deal, put something together that's tough, or two people can't agree on something and negotiate it like that.
How good does it feel when you watch them sign?
Oh
like,
my
how
gosh,
good does that feel?
that is like the biggest internal high that I could ever get.
But then that's the problem. It's like then you wrap up the paperwork and you're like, oh, now I gotta scan this thing or email it to you. I don't want to do any of that. I'm like, here, scan this and send it to everyone. I'm like, what's next? Like,
exactly.
Where's the next challenge?
Where's the next thing going? Exactly. So
but that complex thinking, I think, is so fun and important. And it's so human-centric, which is what I love about real estate. Is it's like all these different personalities. And, and really like since Me Too, since all of these other things, it's become a much more comfortable place for me to be in too. It was it was rough when I first started.
Well, you're in the business of the, the old white male boys club, right? Like let's be honest.
Yeah.
What was that like for you being the CEO of one of the largest private land owners and apartment owners in the city of LA? Was there moments where you felt out of place, or how did it shift for you? Like, what was it like being a woman in a male dominated industry?
Yeah, I would say, especially when I first started, I wasn't CEO. I was like leasing agent. And so those were rough times because you're either getting like berated and screamed at, or you're being subject to, there was someone who was like, oh, I have a really funny joke, but it's too dirty because Jamie's here and I'm not going to say it. And I'm like, I'm cool.
Yeah.
You can say whatever.
Come on.
And so, that feeling like you're a little bit where people point out how you don't quite fit in. And when you're the only, I'm still used to being the only, usually like the youngest person in lots of rooms that I sit in on all these boards and things. And certainly like the only woman in most rooms. Like even I would travel around with the Port of Los Angeles all over the world, like, and be the only woman in the room all the time. Real estate's definitely still that way. I would say the benefit is like the grossness. Like I would get like gross text from brokers in the middle of the night. So like the sexual harassment, either it's like they're yelling and screaming at you and just trying to like bully you just to get, a little bit more edgewise. Or they're like texting you gross things and things like that. So that stuff I think has all gone away. And I think it is actually the shift towards millennials. Like I'm old now.
Yeah.
And so, the people in this range, we've really cultivated a human-centric way of doing business. Most people I deal with now, very ethical, very open-minded, very collaborative. And I think that's our generation coming into, primary positions in a lot of these firms. So that's been so refreshing and great. It's still a very, very male-dominated industry. I still want to see more women in leadership roles. There are so many more than there were when I started. There was a large concept for a long period of time. Like the only women who were in the business at high levels were people who were in family businesses. And in some ways that still is the case. But you used to just see lots of young women coming in as a runner and they'd just be gone pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Or they'd move to like admin or HR. And not that there's anything wrong with those like critical need. And, you get so much exposure to the industry in those ways. But yes, I'm always trying to push women and help cultivate their skills and sort of that tougher, thicker skin to just say if you hang in and you keep pushing, you can break through the other side. There's like epic brokers for sure who are women, like especially on the industrial side.
Oh, it's insane.
Things like that, and a multifamily. And so there are so many more women that I see.
Badass.
Yes, definitely. And so many more groups, because I think you have this sense of imposter syndrome, or you have this sense of, oh, I'm a fish out of water. But when you can collaborate with just a couple more people who are going through the exact same thing, you're like, oh, now you've validated my existence and the feelings that I'm having. And then when I take those, it's just so normalized in a way that we're like, now this is what we're dealing with. You have to listen to someone say some racist joke in a meeting, or like make fun of somebody for some other, inherited trait or whatever. And how do we speak up against that, and how do we help people feel comfortable, and how do we create like office environments and working environments in negotiations?
I think people are doing a lot better job. I personally, and this is just from my experience too, like women are the best brokers, and I mean that. And I'm a man and I'm a broker, but I'm like, I've had some younger women who've come and like mentored underneath me, and I'm like, you don't understand. You are more empathetic. You listen better.
Yeah.
Like there's a bunch of old guys who just want to talk to you. Like
they just want you to sign.
Yeah. Like but they're so good. They're really, really good. And I really want to make a push, because I've enjoyed having those like women work with me, because there's this like, it feels like, I don't want to, it feels like a cheat code, because they are so much better at really our job than I think what we are, with just the natural skills that they have. I swear to God. And so if you can get just over that hump, it's just getting over that hump.
Yeah. To really into self-sufficiency.
Yes.
That's the hardest part. And that's the thing too. It's like, do we think that Gen Z has this super thick skin?
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah.
And the people who really have so much ambition and really, come to me with like, I'm going to do this. I want to do, I've got the fire. I'm going to call. I'm going to learn how to, like I had to go through that period where like people were gross to me and people were awful to me. I would lay in bed at night and just be like, this is so stressful. Like, and just replay conversations of like shitty things people would say and all that stuff. And you let it get to you to a certain, and then there was a day where it's like, okay, you're doing the same old thing. I remember hanging up on somebody once. I'm like, you're just screaming, and I don't think this is productive. So and he's still screaming. I'm just like, please call me back when you've calmed down, or eat a sandwich or whatever.
Yeah.
Just hang up. And then I'm like, no skin off my back. Whatever. No. I'm just gonna wait and see what happens. And then you get to a certain point in your career where you can really absolve yourself of having to deal with people like that too, of just being like, I'm in a position now where I don't have to like. I mean, when you start out, it's a hungry
you gotta
time,
eat shit. You gotta eat shit when you're young. But I think that's what builds up the skill sets and your ability to then, when you get to that next level, you've gone through it. You know what it's like.
Yeah.
And you can help those before you too. I think there's this feeling of giving back too when you've been able to kind of go through it. But I think back to sometimes, because I played sports growing up, and like my favorite times were the double day practices and like the rough stuff, and we had a tough loss and we're back in the gym the next day, and like that, the challenges is what I look back on and revel at, and the shared experiences with people that I cared about
when you're in the trenches
Yes,
together.
it's the trenches.
And that's grit. Yeah, that's all grit. That's all of just knowing that you can pick yourself back up again, and every time you do that, you're actually stronger than you were. So it's like these, like mental or emotional ups in a way.
100%.
Yeah.
I have a question, changing it up a little bit, but Koreatown, just as a general, because you guys are very heavily, most of your portfolio is in Koreatown.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of development happening. I know we have a shortage. Do you feel like there's a point where diversification for you guys, not just in Koreatown? Like, have you thought about, are we overbuilding? Is there too much new construction, or should we go diversify in different states? Are we going to go do different product types, different areas of the city? Have you thought about that concentration of, your portfolio in one
Definitely.
pocket?
Yeah. And so I think it's about seeing around corners and over hills. And this has been just such an incredibly challenging time. I mean, it's hard when we were spun up into our full development pipeline where we were breaking ground like 6 or 7 times a year and finishing 6 or 7 buildings a year. I mean, that's a busy time. It's an all hands on deck. On the one hand, this period gives us time to, pick your head up and look a little bit and think strategically about what's happening. So we delivered in the process of delivering our first 2 projects in East Hollywood. We've got 1 building in Hollywood, 1 downtown. We're looking to do 2 adaptive reuse projects downtown that are going to start soon.
Wow.
One is high rise, will be market rate. The other one is 100% affordable.
So you believe in downtown?
Yeah, or we have buildings that we have to.
Yeah, like we have these buildings.
But you know what? Like the residential in downtown is booming. It's great. The rents are good.
Yeah.
The product is good, and people want to live in downtown.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're living much farther east or much farther south.
For sure.
And so the residential is great downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Like we look at these, bars and like where people live. It's just the office has just been decimated.
Yeah.
A lot of that is like government workers not coming back to the office. And when you have that inborn population base on a day-to-day basis, that's what keeps restaurants open.
Yeah.
That's what keeps dry cleaners open, gyms open. It's what keeps the streets safer because there's just more bodies on the ground. So yeah, downtown, we've got 2 projects on a little bit more what we call not our west side, not the west side, but like Crescent Heights and La Brea. So those are 2 conversion projects
3-6
that we're looking at.
I think it's zip code, sorry. So I'm just like, 3-6.
Yeah, exactly. And we've built 2 in Brentwood, 1 in Westwood.
Okay.
And so we've started reaching out more. They're all city of Los Angeles though. And so yes, I've got lots of people telling me, let's look at projects.
Come to
definitely.
Orange County. Come to, El Segundo.
Or even outside of California.
Yeah.
I think for me, what I'm more interested in is diversification of product type, like self-storage. When you have so many people living in such a dense urban environment with limited space.
Can you convert office to self-storage?
Yeah, you can. It depends on the floor load.
That's interesting
Yeah.
to me.
And so that's something that I'm really, really interested in.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of that like last month, the closer you are to your place, like if you're keeping your bike or your skis or whatever it may be.
Well, you don't have rent control when it's in storage facilities,
exactly.
right? You don't got to deal with tenants, really.
I
know. I know. It's
and there's definitely a shortage
Yeah.
of storage. And so I think that's an area that's really, really interesting. Industrial, like even given tariffs and all that kind of stuff. And there are more restrictions on industrial, but that's like a great, safe, long-term. We have some retail also. And what we've seen coming out of the pandemic where maybe brick and mortar is really tough for, just consumer goods, experiential, like everybody is, eating out at restaurants.
Totally.
Wanting to have something fun and cool to do. And so we've seen a big boost in that.
Can we make MacArthur Park awesome again? How are we going to do that?
How are we going to do that? We've built a building, right? I mean,
the Curve
right there. Yeah, Curve we built from scratch, and then we converted Atlas House, which is right there. And
I really want MacArthur Park to be cool.
We really want it's such a beautiful place. And
it's right in the middle of the city.
When the sun is out, it's like, wow, this is great. You see people playing soccer. The second the sun sets, it's like, oh my gosh, like drive through as fast as you can.
Yeah, don't
I'm always on Wilshire. It's a dangerous place. There's a crime element there. There is this proposal to shut down.
I don't know how I feel about that.
That doesn't make sense from a traffic
0% chance that would ever work. We got a lot.
So there's some
we
things
still
like
have
this
things
that
to
I'm
work
sort of
on.
like, there's head scratchers happening.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot to work on. I don't know that that is the thing we should be working on right now.
What's one thing that keeps you up at night?
Oh, everything. These days?
Yeah.
Everything. We're just in such a time of volatility, and the market abhors volatility. And not only do, the public equity markets or investor markets or banks or anything like that abhor volatility, what I'm really seeing is day-to-day people are really, really just on edge, afraid, not being able to plan and make decisions, even like 3 to 6 months out. You've got people showing up at public schools trying to take kids away.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something, I went to yoga over the weekend, and yoga instructor was joking, and he was like, "Oh, I hope everyone's doing well." And they're like, "Yeah, how are you?" And he's like, "Oh, just trying not to get deported." And I'm like, and he's making a joke of it, but I was like, this is a tragedy that this is weighing on you.
Yeah.
Day in and day out. Like other people that I see who either work for us or it's just, and even if, they're not subject to that, they see that in their communities and the stress and the fear that causes. And then you'll layer on top of that, like literally everything is more expensive. And so just to live life, like those kinds of things, it's hard.
Yeah.
And this has been a very, very tough time.
Yeah.
In our industry.
Well, I think you're doing so much to try to improve the city, and from a civil front, you're part of a bunch of boards. You're help on the committee for the Olympics that are coming in. You're doing so much stuff to try to bolster Los Angeles. And as you said, you're an Angelino through and through. And I'm really happy to see what you guys are able to do and continue that. And last thing before we wrap up, like someone young who's watching this, right? They wanna be Jaime Lee one day.
Okay. Yeah. I encourage it.
What piece of advice or what's one thing that you'd give them that they can take away to go and try to be you, or try to be something that they want to be, achieve their goals?
Yeah, it's almost like when you're talking about women in brokerage, I think a lot of that is preparedness. Because I'll go into negotiations sometimes and I'm talking to a dude. I'm like, you don't know the numbers. Well, you have no idea what you're even negotiating for.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll actually agree with you. Like if I'm negotiating with a female broker, I'm like, ooh, I'm a little bit more like ding, like a little more, like heightened situational awareness and things like that, because women come prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if you can show, whether it's in the company that you work for, whether it's you're starting your own thing and you're dealing with partners or vendors or whoever, clients, whoever it may be, if you can show that you're really prepared, that not only are you going to say yes to difficult tasks, come prepared to execute on them, I think you'll go so much farther than you even think is possible. Because even when I first started joining boards, my mentality was just yes, and just say yes to everything. So if they were like, who can find a bar for a networking event? It's like, sure, I'll do it. And who can take minutes for this meeting? It's like, sure, I'll do it. Who can volunteer to help with this event? And I'm like, yes, I will always be there, because those people see you as someone who is dependable and executes and does, keeps their word, and they'll refer you for other things. And that's really how I ended up being, president of the Harbor Commission at the Port of Los Angeles during an incredibly critical period of time for the port. On the board of trustees at USC, on the board at LA28. That's definitely a bright spot for LA. The Olympics are going to be amazing.
I'm excited.
I was at the Olympics in Paris last summer, and we took our daughter there, and she just, it was amazing. First, she loves Paris. It's just like such a beautiful, and they did an incredible job using their historical cultural assets as backdrops for all of these events. Ours are a little bit different that way, but we have this inborn base of all of the facilities that we need.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be great. It's an enormous savings to be able to utilize existing. And then we have two incredible, huge universities. I mean, we have so many universities, but with the facilities at UCLA and USC and utilizing those. And then all the way up and down. I mean, we keep building new of these facilities, because now we have like Intuit and SoFi, but then you also have like old school, like Dodger Stadium
and the Rose Bowl,
and the Coliseum and the Rose Bowl. And so I think that'll be a great bright spot. The world coming to Los Angeles and just really adding to the fabric of our city, and it's over 200 countries, 50,000 athletes. And so watching that is going to be great. I think it's going to be a huge point of pride for our city. And it's the boost that is, not just the investment from LA28 itself into the infrastructure, into the jobs and the vendors, and, trying to boost our local economy as much as possible, but also the after effects of everything, because every single, like civil project out there is like, well, we got to be done by the Olympics.
Yeah.
Got to be done by the Olympics.
Push.
And so there'll be great long lasting benefits for LA that continue for a long time after that fact too.
Jamie,
like the people mover at LAX.
Oh my gosh, like I know. I'm excited. I'm very excited for that. LAX is not the most fun to get around.
Yeah. All those buses and little shuttle things will be gone.
What can people do to support you and your mission and what you're working on? Like, what are some things people can do to support that?
Well, since we're on the Olympics, it's support the games. Like, go to the games. A lot of people leave town, But I think this is something that we should all be really, really proud of. And the help of the citizens is what's going to make it successful. We need it to be successful, both financially and just culturally and civically. And so support the Olympics. And
Adaptive
we're pushing on this adaptive
Yeah.
thing. We're really excited about it. And we've got, 10 or 11 projects in the pipeline that we can do. Oh, you asked before too about like overbuilding, and we're nowhere close to that.
No.
I'm not concerned about that because the population's growing again in California and in Los Angeles. This will always be like LA is always going to hold its value. This is the place where people come to work in so many different diverse fields. It's where people come from all over the world to go to school. It's such a cultural safe, but people feel safe here. And in a time where people don't feel safe in lots of different places, whether it's across the world or even in different areas of the U.S., LA is just amazing. Amazing.
Gotta keep on chugging on. We're gonna keep making it better.
Yeah, definitely.
Jamie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun.
Of course. Amazing.